Hi there. Thank you for stopping by. My name is Timian Melissa, and I have a question for you. What is your relationship to death? I know it's not a question that most of us ask ourselves a lot, but maybe we should, because it's a very important question. Death is a very important part of life. It's something we cannot avoid, and it will come sooner or later. We will meet it either when it's our own time to transition or when someone we know and love is transitioning. And many of us are living our life, making decisions based on an often unaware fear of death. Sometimes we're very aware of our fears. There's so many things we don't do because we are afraid we will die in doing them, or that they could lead to a sooner death. And I'm not saying that we need to be reckless and just throw ourselves into all kind of dangerous situations, but sometimes we don't go traveling because we're afraid of flying. We don't want to leave our home because we are afraid something will happen, that we might be hit by a bus, or whatever it can be that holds us back from living our life fully out of fear of death and dying. I suggest using death as a spiritual practice. Practicing to contemplate on death. Contemplate on the fact that we are gonna die. And how do you actually feel about death? What are your beliefs around death? What are the thoughts that you are having? What are the beliefs of your culture around death? And do they match your own? What do you know about death? And what do you want to trust or believe about death? Do you have any experience that supports any of those beliefs? And if you have really truly looked death into the eye, then you will realize some things around the way you live your life. Very often when people have been facing death, they realize that they want to make some changes in their priorities, and they start to live more fully. So I suggest that you don't wait for death to come your way, either your own death coming close, or that someone else has to remind you by being close to death themselves, but that you actually consciously enter the realm of death in your mind and start to investigate what lies in there for you. And if one day you get to be with someone who is transitioning from this life into death, you will be a great support for them if you have made peace with your own death and with death as a concept. Then you will be able to be there and support them in a very different way than if you yourself are insecure around death. And very often we only get one shot when we get to be with someone who's dying. They're only dying once. And afterwards we can sit back and think that maybe I could have said or done something else. Maybe I could have been with them in a different way or helped ease their process in some way. But often we don't realize until afterwards. And regret is a really bad feeling. It's not serving anything or anyone, but it can still be there as a little nagging feeling. So this is one way to prepare yourself for such a moment, that we never know when it will come, but we can be prepared. And for myself, I assisted my mother in her dying 25 years ago, and that was from one side perspective of myself, one state of being in myself, and that relationship to death I had at that point. And it was a beautiful experience. But afterwards, there were things I wanted to have done different if I had had a second chance. And now, within the last year, I had to follow my father through the portal of death. And I could really feel how I could do that from a different place in myself, because I am so at peace with death. So I could really be there for him all the way through the transition. And we had the conversations that I knew I wanted to have with him, and I helped him to let go of life in a different way that I could do with my mother, because I knew so much less when she was passing. So that's my encouragement for you today, that you start relating to your death and to death as such, that when you meet someone who is going through that initiation of death, that you can assist them better, and that you can also live your life more fully because you are at peace with your death.